Hi, welcome. Today I'd like to share some thoughts on the noun ha talones, that means toll or tax collector, since this term is so frequent in the Gospels. A little background information. In the Greco-Roman world, tax farming related to taxes, tolls, houses, mines, land, border crossings, inspections, roads, and bridges. And these tolls were collected to help fund the state treasury. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, the massive road system certainly needed funds. And in the first century, as well as the 21st century, nobody likes to pay taxes. Tolls and customs were paid for purely fiscal purposes, and were frequently paid several times over. Let's take, for example, if you were going on a long journey with goods to be sold in a market, you'd go over several roads and bridges. A tax collector paid a certain amount to the state for his office. Thus, he needed to collect more than what the state required simply to survive. Thus, what happened with this was that greed enters the picture. A toll collector, let's say at a bridge, he sizes up a person with a wagon of goods and he says to himself, how much can I get out of this merchant? Now, as a profession, toll collecting could be an honest profession. For example, in Luke 3, where the people are coming to the Baptist and asking him what repentance means for them, including the general populace, soldiers, and then tax collectors, he doesn't tell them to give up their jobs, but he says this: repentance for them looks like don't collect more than you're required to do so. However, the term tax collector or toll collector here is often paired with sinners in a negative way. So in Matthew 9:11, let's pronounce diate meta ton telonon kai hamar telon esthie ha didaskalos sumo. Why does your teacher eat with toll collectors and sinners? In Matthew 18, we have a paragraph dealing with community order and discipline, and somebody who doesn't listen and pay attention to several layers of reproof, even the church. He says this: let him be as the Gentile and tax collector. So here we have ha ethnikos kai ha telones, the Gentile and the tax collector, that is, outside the covenant people of God. One consistent accusation against Jesus that also fed into his crucifixion was his table fellowship with the wrong sorts of people. The call of Levi, a toll collector that leads to table fellowship with many toll collectors and sinners. And here we have paloi, telonai kai hamartaloi, that leads to the religious accusation and then Jesus' rebuttal. And through his parable, Jesus makes it very clear that doctors need to be with their sick patients. What good is it to go through medical school and an expensive internship and then only be present with healthy people? We have a trilogy of parables in Luke 15, and I'd like for us to take notice of the way that this trilogy of parables is set up. In verse 1, we read, all the tax collectors or toll collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him, that is, in a positive way. But juxtaposed with the toll collectors and sinners, we have the Pharisees and scribes. They were grumbling and saying, this fellow welcomes sinners and he eats with them. He celebrates with them. So the trilogy of parables that Jesus speaks in Luke 15 are directed to them. And we find that in Luke 15:3. That is his critics. And we find that invitation to table fellowship with Jesus embraces the socially, economically disadvantaged. And that goes back to Luke 14 with several references, as well as the religiously disadvantaged or ostracized. That's what we have in Luke 15. So the trilogy of parables constitutes Jesus' answer to the charge. He is like the searching shepherd, the searching woman, and like the father of two sons. Joy reigns supreme in this chapter. Climax of joy in all three stories. A joy that is spontaneous and contagious. And I need to say something here about the importance of table fellowship in the Middle East then as well as today. It is a major sociological and religious duty or right. Growing up in the mission field in Beirut, Lebanon, I well remember being invited to various Arab homes and the lavish hospitality and welcome of us as guests. This was something religious for them, a religious duty or a religious right. In Luke 19, 1 through 10, we have special emphasis placed upon Zacchaeus as a chief or head tax farmer. He's higher up on the food chain than lower tax collectors, and is noted here by the expression he was especially rich. So we have Jesus self-invite himself to Zacchaeus' home. And then we find that the acceptance by Jesus in table fellowship leads to his voluntary restitution for wronging people. Zacchaeus says he's got to go back to his Excel spreadsheets, through his records, and give back money to the poor, and certainly to pay restitution for those that he's wrongfully taken tolls from. So the accusation is laid against Jesus for his table fellowship and staying at Zacchaeus' home. And then we have the climactic declaration at the end: salvation has come to this home today, for he himself is a son of Abraham. And there's the Greek, autos huios Abraham. This is an amazing statement in that culture made of Zacchaeus as a rich tax collector or chief or head tax farmer. And this statement that Jesus makes about Zacchaeus is in advance of his actual voluntary restitution, when he actually does something with the books. So thanks, and I trust this has been helpful to you.